Hey, young people. Welcome to week 1, day 3 of Latin. Today is April 1st, which means, you guessed it, it's the Veneralia. The Veneralia was an ancient Roman festival that was celebrated on the 1st of April. Its origins date back to 220 BC. There was a young lady who was the daughter of a Roman nobleman, and she was riding into Rome on horseback, and she was struck by lightning. And the lightning hit her so hard that it knocked her clothes off. The Romans said, all right, that's really weird. We better ask the oracle about this. So they went to the Sibylline oracle, and the oracle told them it was because the Romans were having sexual misdeeds and misadventures. And so the Romans had a little bit of introspection and investigation, and they discovered that there were 3 Vestal virgins that had been sleeping with Roman noblemen. So the first step was they had to punish the individuals accordingly. Nobody really writes specifically what happened to the noblemen and the Vestal virgins in question, but typically if a Vestal virgin broke her vow of chastity, she was killed. So one can imagine. Anyway, after that, they had to make amends with the gods for their sexual impropriety, so they created the Veneralia. The Veneralia was dedicated, if you look at the name, to the goddess Venus, and it was set on April 1st of every year, because April was the month dedicated to Venus. Every year during the Veneralia, the priestesses would get a statue of Venus that was fully clothed, and they would take it down to the men's public baths, strip it naked, and wash it as though it were a real person, and then parade it around the city. This isn't an April Fool's joke. This is what they actually did. Anyway, now remember, you have a quiz on Thursday. I'm going to post it on Thursday, but you can do it at your own leisure. The exercise today should look like this. I just took a screen cap and posted it into a Word document so I could type over top of it. Just like with other assignments, if you want to edit the PDF itself, that's fine. If you want to take a screen cap and edit it in whatever document, whatever app you want, that's fine. If you want to print it out and just write on it, that's fine. But this is to get you ready for the quiz that'll be posted by the end of the day on Thursday. On that quiz, you're going to have to conjugate verbs in the imperfect tense. And to do that, you need to remember the paradigm that we talked about when we filled in our yellow sheet. And you should have written down something like this. For the imperfect, it's always the stem of the verb plus the letters BA plus whatever the personal ending is for the verb. I'm going to highlight those letters BA, because that's the most important part of this. Sort of weird. This is the imperfect tense, and you've probably never heard of the imperfect tense until Monday. Why is this the first real tense that you learn? Well, you learn the present tense, but that's just kind of like the default nothing going on tense. Why do you learn this as the first one? Well, the answer is, even if it kind of seems unusual to form, it's really, really easy to spot. In fact, in the higher levels of Latin, when I teach students, this is how you can spot the verb tense. Number 1 on every list, the number 1 thing I say to look for is look for a BA. As soon as you see a BA in the verb, it's instantly imperfect, and it's really easy to spot. It doesn't change across conjugations. It's a really regular tense sign. I'm going to go through and I'll help you form some of these. But this document is basically saying, fill in these paradigms for a couple of verbs. And if you can do this, you can ace the quiz on Thursday. Okay. The first line's here. It says, firmo, firmare, firmavi, firmatum is your verb. And you're going to fill in the Latin first, So put in the stem of firmo, firmare. So cut off the vowel re off the infinitive. So it's just firm. F-I-R-M. And then it says put in a B-A. I'll do that. Then it says put in a personal ending. Well, we talked about you're not going to use an O because the B-A-O ending would be Bao, Bao, Bow. It didn't exist in Latin. They abhorred it. So they used the alternative first person singular ending. They used M. If you look at the verb we formed here, there's a problem with it. It says firm bomb. It doesn't look like a normal verb. Well, that's because something goes in between the stem and the BA. And sometimes it's simply just a stem letter. In this case, that's the case. So if it's first conjugation, you look at your yellow sheet. The stem letter for first conjugation is A. So I'm going to throw an A in there. So firmabam. And this would translate as I was, because it's imperfect. And then it's whatever the verb is plus an ing. So I was strengthening. Go ahead, fill this in for the second and third person singular plural. If you go down here, you look at the passive. This is pretty simple. This forms the same way. You get the stem, so it'd be firm. You would get the tense sign, BA, and you would get the personal ending. Well, we need the first person singular personal ending, but now it's passive. So instead of an M, as in O or M, ST, must dissent, now it's got to be passive. So R, wrist, ter, mer, mini, enter. You end up with the same problem. You have firm bar. Firm bar isn't a Latin word, so they put the stem letter in between. Firmabar. And this would translate as I was being, because it's passive voice, strengthened. Firmabar. I was being strengthened. Okay. So apparently all you do is you throw in the stem letter in between the stem and the tense sign. Why didn't I tell you to do that on the yellow sheet? Why didn't I have you write stem plus stem letter plus BA plus personal ending? Well, it's because when you have a third IO or fourth conjugation verb, it doesn't quite work like that. And this is really the only tense where the stem letter thing doesn't really hold up. So if we go to do this for another verb, we'll do it for mitto mittere, misi missum. Think about what the conjugation of mitto mittere is with a short E, R-E. If you think it's third conjugation, you're right. So I'm going to put in the stem, M-I-T-T. I'm going to leave a space in here. I'm going to put my tense sign, B-A. And then I'm going to put in my first person singular active personal ending. So O or M, S-T, must dissent. Okay, mitto mittere. The tense sign, if it's third conjugation, we learned that it's an I. It should be vidEbam, but that's not true. Instead, it's vidEbam with an E. So this is why on the yellow grammar sheet, I told you not to write stem plus stem letter. I just said stem plus BA plus personal ending. This is only really important if you're writing Latin from scratch. If you're just translating, the imperfect is really easy. It's really easy to spot, and you should have no problems. We can go through and do the rest of this. This would be, because it's first person singular, I, and it's going to be was verbing. So I was, mitto mittere is to send. So I was sending. That E carries through all the other parts. So if I put another E down here, that should be good. If I go to form the second person, instead of vidEbam, I have vidEbas, and instead of I was sending, I have you were sending. So that E replaces what you would expect to be the stem letter through all of these third conjugation forms. If I go down here and I form the imperfect passive, it's more of the same. So this would just be mitte bar I was being sent, because it's passive voice now. Notice, even in this case, it doesn't have an I for the stem letter, it's replaced with an E. So all third conjugation regular verbs, instead of an I for the stem letter, it gets replaced with an E for the imperfect. If it's third IO, the I gets replaced with an IE. And if it's fourth conjugation, it gets replaced also with an IE. Go ahead, fill in these 4 charts with the active and passive. Make sure to include what I've done, add the rest of the stuff to it. If you can do this, stem plus usually the stem letter plus BA plus the personal ending. And just remember that if it's third conjugation, instead of the stem letter, it has an E there for this. You'll be good to go for the quiz that I'll post later this week. Hey, young people. Welcome back. This is week 1, day 2 of Latin 1. Yesterday, in day 1, you learned there's this thing called the imperfect tense. The word imperfect is a little tricky because we use it in English, but it means a completely different thing.
Daddy,
in Latin,
I got 1,409 calories burned.
All right, give me a high five. Good job.
We got too much calories in. I look how skinny I am.
That makes one of us.
I have to be the skinniest one in the house, right, Daddy? I have to be the skinniest one in the house.
Well, somebody's got to be.
I am, because I'm working out and got lots of calories. I got.
All right, good job. I got to get back to work. Thank you for that.
No, it's a snap 5.
All right, that was funny. Anyway, this document that I'm showing you here, this is on edsby, and this is going to be the assignment for